TLC Network here with another unboxing, this time coming from the company Hollyland, and this is the Hollyland Lark Max Dual. It is a wireless dual lav kit that actually comes in a solo kit as well, in case you just want a singular microphone. But with the dual kit, you get two transmitters and one receiver, a stereo receiver that's able to take both transmitters at the same time and provide them to your camera. Perfect for when you're wanting to interview somebody or you just simply have two hosts that are speaking at the same time. This is the new, pretty much entry into their collection of wireless lav solutions and appears to be pretty much their new flagship. We switched out to, usually we're using Sennheiser and some other ones that we typically use in studio situations, but right now we're using the Hollyland Lark 150, which has always been very comparable to some of the other stuff that we use, but this one offers a little bit more in terms of features. One of those features is the distance that you can get between the transmitters and the receiver, which is up to 820 feet line of sight, which means no walls or anything else interfering. So the more walls or anything else that you might have in between the transmitter and the receiver, the less of a distance you're going to get. But usually indoors, 820 feet isn't really going to be realistic. You're usually going to be shooting from 10, 20 feet away maybe. But outside, outdoors, that's where you're going to be able to see that 820 feet or up to, and you can tap into that when needed. Another spec the company seems to be quite proud about is its claim that this will offer studio quality audio, including up to 48 kilohertz 24-bit audio coming from the microphones in this kit. Some other specs include 70 decibels signal to noise ratio, or SNR, as well as 128 decibels max SPL, or sound pressure level. And all within a very familiar kind of interface here. As you can see, it does come with a charging case, the two microphones or transmitters, and the receiver here. The charging case allows it to extend the battery life of these as you use them on the go without having to constantly plug them in for any given reason, and so you don't have to burn through batteries all day having to swap any batteries out, since that's, thrown out since it has its own. So it is going to look a lot like some of the other products that Hollyland has to offer, including the Lark 150, which I'll just pop off right here, which is right here. So there's a lot of similarities here. It offers your typical mono, stereo, and safety mode. So mono, the microphones that you're recording in will be heard on the left and right channel at the same time, where stereo is going to separate that. So mic 1 is going to be in left and mic 2 is going to be in right, which is going to make it easier for post-edit later on. And then the safety track option is another stereo mode in itself that also records a track to the transmitters directly internally, so you can save that as a safety in case whatever you're recording to, say your camera or record deck, fails. So that way you actually have a file that will be saved to the transmitters so you can make use of those later on as a backup. And with that, these offer 8 gigabytes of onboard memory, which gives you about 14 hours of record time. They also offer ENC, which is environmental noise cancellation, which is something new we've seen with a lot of the newer wireless lav solutions out there, not just from Hollyland, but other companies as well. It is a technology that is hit or miss at times, and definitely something that is in development in the wild, so it may or may not work as well as one might hope, say, listening to wireless earbuds, with active noise canceling or anything like that. When you're working with microphones with active noise canceling, there's a lot of digital processing going on, and sometimes you might hear blips and bloops, and or things might come in or out that shouldn't be there, and or the voice might sound weird, but we don't quite know how that's going to affect this one just yet, since we haven't tested that out yet. But it has been getting better over the last year, and Hollyland is one of those companies that has been working hard to achieve that. It also has what they're calling max timber mic technology, and it's just a multi-layered mic membrane that's inside of the microphone in each transmitter, which really optimizes, or it's supposed to optimize at least, voice recording for crisp and clear vocals, so you can really focus on whoever's talking and less on everything else. And of course you have EQ options. So you have options for hi-fi, low-cut, and vocal boost, as well as a number of other features, including a magnetic attachment. So most of these, as you can see here, have a clip. And that's pretty much how you clip a microphone to a person, or a lavalier in this case. It's clipped to my shirt. So you can use this without the lavalier. You can unplug that, and this becomes the microphone, and you just clip this whole thing to the shirt. Of course, not everybody's wearing a shirt that's able to do that. And for that purpose, they made it an option to switch between using the clip and using a magnet. So that way, if the person is, say, wearing a dress, you can just put a piece of metal that's behind the dress somewhere and then attach the microphone directly to the magnet, and you don't need to worry about anything to clip to. That being said, this kit here does not come with these microphones, the lavalier microphones. They are optional, but they are optional, so you can buy into these. So if you choose that, or if you choose to have these in your kit, and you don't want to just use this as your microphone, or at least this, not this, I'll just put that away so we don't get confused here. You have that option of putting this in your kit so you can actually lav people up like this and use the transmitter as just a belt pack. But it does not come by default with the kit itself. They do support the option of going 3.5 millimeter or USB, which guarantees they're going to work with almost every device out there pretty much. So the 3.5 millimeter is going to give you computers, laptops, tablets, and anything else that has a mic input, cameras, DSLRs, video cameras, anything, again, that has 3.5 millimeter input or something that can adapt from 3.5 millimeters, such as 3.5 millimeter to XLR. Of course, that you would have to get on your own. But it does come with a 3.5 to 3.5 TRS cable or 3.5 millimeter cable for all the other devices that have that typical headphone size jack. And then for USB, it has a USB-C port on there, so it can also use for laptops and computers and tablets, smartphones, or anything else that have a USB jack, so you can actually use it as a USB-based microphone. So it pretty much opens you up to any possible need or use out of this thing, and pretty much everything works outside of the box, except for the lav. You have to buy those lavs separately. The only last thing we need to talk about is battery life. Battery life is always important, especially when you're on the go and you don't have time to plug in and charge. Again, one of the reasons why the charging case comes in a lot of use, so that way you can drop them into the charger and charge them between shots. Especially if you're moving from one point to another, that gives you a perfect opportunity for it to catch up. The transmitters offer a total of up to 7.5 hours of use on their own, just with their own built-in batteries, while the receiver offers up to 9 hours of use. When using the charging case to keep them powered up between shots, you get up to 22 hours worth of use, which gets you through your typical day. So you won't be putting these on a charger, worst case scenario, until the end of at least the day, or probably a week, depending on how often you make use of these. And this time last final thing, there's a 1.1 inch AMOLED screen built into the receiver, so you can see everything right there and adjust through your settings using a scroll wheel that also pushes down as a button, as well as another button, which is the menu button. And all of this comes with an MSRP of either $199 for just the solo unit that only has, one microphone, and $299 for the dual, which is what we're unboxing now. So what we're going to do is we're going to open this up and see what it looks like, and then we're going to swap it out on our camera, and we're going to see what it sounds like. But first, let's take a look and see what it looks like. What does it come with? And the first thing that you're presented with here is just a small little envelope with some documentation. And in that documentation, we have a card that just says, it's the after sales card. It says we're here for you and reach out to us if you have any questions. Not us, them. And then you have a packing list here that just shows you what comes in the box. And it actually comes with just about everything you need. And then you have the user guide here, which is kind of thick, but it's in multiple different languages, so you don't have to worry too much about that. You will not spend too much time reading that, but it looks like it is very all-inclusive, including barcodes or QR codes on where to download things, including the app. It's only like 5-6 pages. So it won't take long to learn how to use this product. And then you have this awesome carry everything case. And that's it. That's all that comes in the box. And it's a semi-hard case, so it's going to provide plenty of protection for this on the go. Plus your lanyard here, so you can strap it to something with a little button here. But you have two different pockets. You have your main compartment here, and then you have a zipped mesh bag area over here, which is nice. It isn't just tucked into an open flap. You can actually store everything in here without having to worry about everything coming loose. And like I said, it comes with everything you need pretty much. The most important is you have that TRS to TRS connection, tip-ring sleeve. It's in other words, just your regular 3.5 millimeter to 3.5 millimeter cable. And this is going to be for coming out the side of the receiver and going to your camera, so you can get audio to your camera. it has two of these windscreens that are going to apply to the receivers, or excuse me, to the transmitters. And this is going to be for using them in high wind situations, such as if you're outside and you're recording and there's a lot of wind blowing around. This is going to reduce that. And or you just have, we'll go ahead and say it out loud, a mouth breather that definitely likes to talk or blow wind into the microphone. This is going to reduce some of that. But in most cases, you're not going to use these because you shouldn't really be shooting in windy situations anyway. We'll actually leave that out so we can show you what it looks like once we bring those receivers, or those, again, transmitters out. But additional cables, this is where it increases your connectivity to other devices, your likelihood of this being able to work outside of the box. But right here, this is a USB-C to a Lightning connection. So this is going to be for Apple products that still have the Lightning connection on them. This will allow you to be able to use the receiver on those. And the next one is a USB to USB, or USB-C to USB-C cable for any mobile devices or laptop or computer that has USB-C jacks on it or ports. You'll be able to make use of this on those. Of course, if they don't have USB-C and they just have regular USB-A, you have a USB-A to USB-C, so you pretty much have connectivity to everything, almost. So again, anything that has a 3.5 millimeter jack, almost, and then anything that has USB-C or Lightning or USB-A, as long as that device is able to take microphones over USB, which is pretty much all of today's modern, mobile devices. Pretty much, not all of them. But the only catch is this, the 3.5 millimeter connection. This may or may not work with your device if you have a combined port, which most smartphones and tablets do, and some laptops as well, many laptops. If you only have a singular 3.5 millimeter port on there that's used for everything, headphones, headset, microphone, whatever, it'll work with any of those. If you plug them into it, you're going to need a different connection. You're going to need a TRS to what's called a TRRS connection, which is two rings, tip ring, ring sleeve, and it just means you're going to see an extra black ring around that. And that's because that is creating an extra channel of data, and it needs that information to know exactly what you're feeding it. That is going to be something you'd have to buy on the side in addition to any of this. So that's the only thing, that's the only catch. Outside of, say, your camera has XLR inputs or your record decks have XLR inputs, then you need to go 3.5 millimeter to XLR. But that is common. Almost none of these kits are going to come with XLR adapters in them, so at least these little smaller mobile kits. But the only real one that you might find most people buying into a kit like this is that TRS to TRRS connection, which you can openly find just about anywhere, especially if you already have a kit laying around that came with one. You can probably use that. The TRS connection will go to the receiver. The TRRS connection would go to your smartphone or tablet or laptop, whichever device has that TRRS port. A lot of letters there. So moving on, we look at that charging case. And as I said, this charging case is going to look quite familiar. It looks almost identical, almost sort of. Actually, it doesn't. It doesn't look identical, but it looks very similar to the Lark 150's case. It's not as big. It's still a smaller profile, which is a big benefit. But it's definitely, it feels more durable, I'd say. I like just the general texture and the feel and the weight of this. Like, it was really built with quality materials, and that's nice to see, especially with a price point for this one of $300. The back side of it has a USB port here. This is a USB-C port, and this is going to be for charging this. And when all of your stuff's in there, or your transmitters and your receiver, everything's going to charge at once. So you don't have to plug them in individually. You just put them all in here, plug it in here, and it'll charge all of those plus the case itself. On the front, you have status lights here. They're just going to tell you the current status of the charge. So if I open this, you'll see all of them pop on and telling you this is actually 100% charged out of the box. And then at the bottom, we just have some rubber feet here, so that way it remains still wherever it's sitting. But again, top opening, the receiver and everything pops right out. And usually when you do this, they'll actually turn on. In this case, they're not going to turn on because they still have the little battery protectors on here for the contacts. But you see the 3 slots here, the 2 transmitters and the receiver, everything goes in there. You have little contact points in there, and that's how they charge. We're going to take all of these protectors off, so that way, when I do plug it into the case, you'll see the battery begins to show that it's charging. And again, it's an AMOLED screen that's on the front here, a 1.1 inch screen here, so that you can see everything very, very clearly. Everything's crisp, everything's clear. It's a multicolor screen or full color screen. Looks nice. In addition to the screen showing you everything's charging, you also have these 3 lights here, additional status LEDs inside the case that also show that's charging. But again, when we take them out, it should turn on, and it did. So this one turned blue. We're going to take this one out and turn blue. And we're going to take this receiver out, and obviously it was already on, sort of, kind of, anyway. But now it shows you that it is on and just connected to these. Now, first thing I want to point out, again, is most of the weight of this charging case, it's the actual devices themselves. Something that Hollyland has bragged about, as well as some of these other companies, is just how light they've been able to make some of these. It's amazing, just a few grams here and there. These are going to be a little bit heavier, no big deal though. There's multiple reasons for that. And obviously, one, you have a magnet, and you take that off. It's a much tougher shell. There's metal involved. I love this. It's going to be very durable when it's out in the field used for your shooting. You're not going to damage these as easily as some of those really thin, basic plastic microphones. While at the same time, they're not overly heavy. They're still pretty light. I like that. It means that they're not going to be too annoying or distracting at all to the person that they're clipped to. You can just clip them to their shirt, and they're not really going to pay much attention to it. And that's important because you don't want something that's really dragging their shirt down because A, you're going to have a wardrobe malfunction, or B, it's just going to be annoying and distracting for everyone. So in this case, that's not going to be the case. And on top of that, again, you can use lavaliers if you want, so you don't even need these attached to the shirt if you don't want to. Now, on the transmitters themselves, the microphones, this top section here is the microphone. If you're using this as your microphone without the lav, you'll want to make sure this is somewhat pointed to the person that's speaking. So you're going to want to be able to hook it directly to them like this, and or at least at an angle where it's pointing as close as possible to their mouth. On the front, all you have is just the logo here, Hollyland, and you can cover that if you don't want that to be seen on camera. You have a little bit of a status LED light here. And then you have the 2 side buttons here. You have a power button, and that's just to manually power this on and off. Let's say you're not dragging the charging case around with you and you just want to turn everything on and off manually. You have that option there. Then you have your pairing and noise cancellation button here. That's just an oval shaped button. A single press of it is going to turn on environmental noise canceling, not active noise canceling, but environmental noise canceling. And when you do that, it turns green. So you know green means go, that mode is on. If you hit it again, it's just going to turn it off and go back to blue. Blue just means you're powered on. Green means you have environmental noise cancellation enabled. I keep wanting to say ANC, but it's not ANC. But it's simple. You just press it, turns on, press again, turns off. You can also control that from the receiver. And if you press and hold this, it'll go into pairing mode. So in case you lose pairing to this, then you would use that to pair that to the receiver. And then on the side here, you have the record option. There's a record button here and a little LED light there. Press that once, it goes into the red, and that tells you that it's now recording, and you'll be able to have that as a backup or safety track when using these. Press it again, and it stops recording. So it's just a nice thing to consider if you're a camera guy and you're miking somebody up. If you just want that extra added security, that safety, press that button, make sure that's lit up red, and then mic your subject. So that way it's there in case it's needed, because you can never be too safe. And then on the bottom here, you have your contacts. Obviously, this is for charging within the case, and you have your USB port. That USB-C port, again, can be used for many different reasons on all of these 3 devices. For this one, it's 2 different reasons. A, it's for charging this remotely if you don't have the case with you. It is for updating the firmware if you want to update the firmware of this. And then the receiver, the USB-C port, is going to be for updating the firmware, charging, or connecting it to a computer so that you can use it as a wireless mic for your computer as a USB mic. Of course, you can also use this if your computer has a regular mic input that's 3.5 millimeters, not a TRRS one, not a headset connection, but just if it has separate inputs for everything, for headphones and for mic, then this would be used for that. Or, again, this, if you want to go USB-C to USB-C or USB-A into that computer. Again, a lot of options here. And then again, you have those options. You can clip this to someone's shirt, like this is clipped to my pants here, or you can put this magnet on underneath the shirt, and that'll allow you to attach it anywhere you want on that subject, making it a lot easier to work with that microphone than having to figure out how to clip it to someone if they're wearing something special. So moving on to the receiver. The receiver, also rugged, really good, very good quality materials here, and I like how it also has a texture to it. So it's not going to be slippery. It's just has that nice, slight, rugged texture to it. But a similar design, you have their logo across the front here, or we'll say the top. The side here, we have a single button right here. This is a power button, again, so you can manually turn it on or off. You can also use this to screen lock, so that way you can't touch any of the settings and mess with anything. Like if you hit the home button, it brings up the home screen, and then you can use this to move around the home screen. If you want to lock that screen, you do so, I believe, just by single press. A little lock hits the screen, and anytime you touch anything, it just says lock. It won't let you do it. So that way you don't make any accidental adjustments, and then when you're done recording, you can hit it again. The little lock icon pops up on the screen, shows it's unlocked, and you're ready to start messing with things again. On that same side, you have a 3.5 millimeter connection, and that's going to be for connecting to your camera or anything else that takes 3.5 millimeter. If yours does not offer 3.5 millimeter, spin it around, you have the USB-C jack. Again, it offers multiple functionality. It's connectivity to those devices that support USB-C or Lightning. If you want to adapt to anything, you can use that port. Also, this is used for firmware and for charging if you want to charge it manually. And then right above that, there's another 3.5 millimeter jack there, or port. That is going to be for headphones. So you have live monitoring with this. You can put a pair of headphones on your head so you can hear what this is listening to as it's happening. So if you have a camera guy that doesn't have a camera that has headphones built into that, you can at least preview all the audio coming from this at that point in the signal flow. And of course, in the back, you got the same thing. You got a clip here. There's no magnets that go with this one because you don't have a reason for a magnet for this. This is going to clip to the camera. So you're just going to find a cold shoe mount or a hot shoe mount and just kind of undo this a little bit. Just open up the clip and slide that right into that little slot. And that'll hold it in place. If you don't have a cold or a hot shoe mount, then you just clip it to anything. And then last but not least, you have the front section here. That screen, a really nice, bright, colorful AM OLED screen. You have, again, a dial here, and that's how you're able to adjust certain things. So like left and right is, the default is for volume. And if I want to adjust left, I can just click, and now I'm adjusting the output of that. So if I need to amplify one of these microphones because that person is talking too low, I can do that from here directly without having to use an external amplifier in line between this and the camera, which you can do if you do make use of an external amplifier and you prefer to do everything from there. But in this case, you don't have to do that. It's just you choose which one you want to edit, take it up or down, choose, or confirm, and then eventually it'll go back to its main screen here, or you can just hit that button, the menu button, to cancel out. On the screen, before we even get to the menu, you have all of your most important information. You have your two inputs here with, you can see the live meters of how much volume's hitting, and you can see when it's starting to clip, going into the red or anything. You have your connectivity here, which looks like a Wi-Fi connectivity icon, so you can see as the person's getting further away if you're taking any hits from that, or if it's just a very busy wireless environment, that might cause some conflicts as well, or just interference. And if so, you'll see that happening on the screen if you're looking at those little Wi-Fi looking symbols. Next to those is a battery icon to show you what the battery life is for everything. And again, you're going to get hours worth of battery life, which is always a plus. This icon on the top left is going to show you which mode you're in, so if you're in mono, stereo, or safety. And then your battery life on the top right is going to be for the battery life of the receiver itself. Now, I keep calling this a menu button, and I'm incorrect with that. This is not a menu button. This is a home button. This is just a home button which sends you back home and or to this quick link screen, which is going to be mic 1. You have 3 different options here. You have your noise cancellation here. You can just do that, and it quickly turns noise canceling on for both of them, the environmental noise canceling. Click it again, it turns it off. And then you have your mute icon. If you mute this by pressing on it, it mutes the microphone. Of course, I'm in mic 1 at the moment, so it shows mic 1 is red, showing it's muted. Click that again, turns it off. And then you have record. This enables the record function of that microphone remotely. And the menu shows down here at the bottom that there's 2 different pages. If you go to the next page, it'll be mic 2. So that's the only difference. And of course, hit the home screen button and it sends you right back to the home. The menu button is actually over here. This gets you deep into the options here. You have record mode, and click on that, and you have stereo, mono, and safety track. Right now it's set to stereo, which is one we like to use quite frequently, especially when we're out and about. Here in the studio, we can get away with mono because we are previewing all audio before it goes into the camera, and there's really no inconsistencies to the volume of the input that's going into the microphone because it's usually used on the same host every time. When you're out in the field, you're going to want to switch that to stereo for sure, so that way if one person you come across just happens to speak lighter than the other, in post you'll be able to increase the volume of that microphone easier and then blend them together. And then safety, of course, records it directly to the microphones themselves. Going back into the menu, we have mic settings, and in there you have microphone gain, auto record, auto off, LED brightness, and storage. And of course, to back out, we just hit the little home button once. Additional options include phone, speaker, EQ, this is where you can adjust that EQ, and system settings. And then system settings has pairing, brightness, upgrade mode, date, time, language, factory reset, and version information. And again, you just hit the home screen to back out of all of that. So there's a lot of information here, there's a lot of settings, a lot of features that these have to offer. And I can only imagine what they sound like. I'm going to assume they sound a lot like the Lark 150. I'm hoping they do. And now what we're going to do is we're going to swap this. We're going to have our camera guy come over here and grab this, put this onto the camera, and we're going to see or hear what it sounds like. So now what you're listening to is the Hollyland Lark Max. The 150 is disconnected, so we're not listening to that anymore. This is specifically just the Hollyland Lark Max. And I've turned off the other ones, and we had our camera guy set the receiver to mono, so you're hearing me from both sides, both channels. If I had kept it in stereo, you would only be hearing me in the left channel. But since we don't need both microphones and this one's turned off, mono works, and it's less to deal with in post-edit in that situation. But this is what it sounds like using this as your microphone. Now I'm going to go ahead and turn on the environmental noise cancellation because we got a little fan blowing over there. I mean, it's kind of far away, so you're probably not going to hear that. Hopefully either way, but we'll see what it sounds like. So now the LED is lit up as green, showing that environmental noise cancellation is turned on. So now you should be hearing a slight difference of the environment here. Of course, again, this is a controlled studio for the most part. There isn't really a lot of noise here. You can't hear anyone, really, for that matter, working at their desks, typing away at whatever they're working on at this moment, or any meetings that are going on, because this is a sealed room. None of that noise should ever come into here. But even then, you might get some echoes and or typical room noise, or maybe just the airflow, the airflow, the HVAC system, which also is modified. I forget how. I think it's zigzag through the roof or something, But there's not a lot of noise coming from that. But there still is some kind of noise, plus that fan going on over there, just to have something a little extra in the environment. But you shouldn't be able to hear any of that. And that's with the environmental noise cancellation. And this is where sometimes the microphones can run into some digital noise, something to keep an ear out for if you're recording in a very active situation that's really noisy. If the noise cancellation is having a hard time trying to decipher what it should be listening to and what it should be canceling out, you might hear some drops or weird little digital noises in there. If you do run into that, then you might be forced to turn that off and just deal with the noise instead. It's the lesser of two evils. Or maybe with this model, the environmental noise cancellation might work absolutely fantastically, in which case we might have to test this in the next show we send any of our mobile teams to, so we can use these in an interview in a very noisy environment. But for now, we have our studio here, and this is what environmental noise cancellation sounds like. I'm going to turn that off. The light's blue, so it's back off. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go over and we're going to switch to one of these lav microphones to see how this changes the sound of the microphone. Again, these are optional, so they do cost extra. You can get these from Hollyland's website, and you might be able to get these from Amazon as well, but they are available from Hollyland. They come with a foam windscreen installed, plus another fur windscreen, so you can use these in windier environments as well. And oh, I forgot to, I'd mentioned that I was going to show what it looks like to have this attached. So now you know what it looks like to have the fur windscreen attached to one of these as well, and what it would look like on your subject. But getting rid of that for now, what we're going to do is we're going to plug in this lav. So now I'm using the lavalier attached to the microphone. So everything is attached to the lavalier that's now hooked to my shirt here, and this is what Hollyland's wired lavalier sounds like plugged into the transmitter. So you're going to hear a little bit of a difference between using this by itself versus using it with the lavalier attached. Lavaliers are going to have a slightly different pickup pattern to them than what's on here. This, I believe, is more omnidirectional, and these might as well. Doesn't quite say on the box. Maybe these are omnidirectional as well. Hard to say. Regardless, you're still going to hear a different pattern to both of these microphones because they're two completely different mics. In some cases, you might find that the lavalier is a preference to you for however you're shooting, or at least the effect you're looking for. If you don't want to have a large device showing hanging off somebody's shirt, you can just opt to use the wired lav and then use the unit as just simply a belt pack and hide that somewhere on them behind their back or something, underneath their shirt, in their pocket. And that's just less bulk, less things that can be seen, and you can, route the cable however you want through the clothing. And in other situations, you just might be limited on how much you can carry, or you don't want to deal with a lot of gear, and or you're limited on time, in which case it's easier to plop this onto somebody and just clip it to their shirt, either with the clip or with the magnet, and then run with your recording. But that's it. This is the Hollyland Lark Max Dual. This is the 2 kit. Then you have the solo kit, which is the one that just comes with one transmitter. But the singular one is $199. The dual kit is $299. This is what Hollyland's mic sounds like, and we're going to have links in the description where you'll be able to find these online. And of course, we'll have a link to the full review where we'll have more information about this once we've had a lot more time to play with them and listen to what they sound like. And in that case, we'll be able to tell you what we do or do not like and break everything down. And that will be at POCnetwork.net once that review is finished. All that information, again, will be included in the description with links. And of course, if you liked what you've seen here, don't forget to subscribe and follow us, and tick that like button on this video. And definitely make use of the comments below to share any thoughts, ideas, or questions you might have for us, each other, or the manufacturer if they're listening. And as always, we thank you for watching, and we'll catch you next time. If you want to stay on top of all the latest and greatest, and or at least the gadgets we cover, remember to subscribe right here. Subscription button. Click it. You're going to want to. There's lots of videos, interviews, previews, all sorts of stuff. Button. Click it.